class, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to talk about different representations of data, and you've got a ToolBox page in front of you, and what we're going to do on this one is we are going to work through the example together. Here are the data points for the example, and the thing about this table is that you don't have to work through it in order. You can pick any cell that makes sense to you, that you think you know what to do. So for me, when I look at this, I want to start with a table because I know how to put this information in a table. So let me grab a pen and let's make a table. We have our X and our Y. Please do this on your paper as I'm filling it out. If you need to pause the video, feel free to pause and finish doing what you're doing. So I made my table, but over here on the left, we want a little bit more information. We want the X terms and the Y terms, which we labeled. We also want independent, dependent, domain, and sorry, range is off the page, but it's there on yours. So I know your teachers have taught you the Mr. X and Miss Y, or Miss X and Mr. Y. So we know that X is independent, and we also know that it's the domain, and you absolutely should be writing this on your paper. The Y is the dependent, and it is the range. Well, now that I've made that table, the next place I want to go in this table is to find the equation, and I like the stat tool in my calculator. Let's see if I can pull a calculator over here. There it is. And I noticed earlier that when I play this back, my cursor, when I push buttons on the calculator, doesn't often show on the actual calculator. So do the best you can to follow along. What we want to do is we want to go to Stat, and we want to hit Edit. If you've already got data in there, take your cursor to L1 and hit Clear, and it'll clear it out. And let's do the same thing for L2. Bring the cursor up to L2, hit Clear, and it will clear it out. So now we've cleared it out. Let's enter our data points. We've entered all the X's. Now let's go to L2 and enter our Y's. Okay. Once the data is entered, we hit Stat again. We go over to Calculate, and we use StatCalc 5, which is quadratic regression. But the cool thing about it is if it's a linear function, what will happen is that A term will just zero out. So we've got A equals 0, B is 1.25, and C is 3. So let's write that equation. I like to, sorry, that should be a 0. I like to get rid of the 0 terms. Let's rewrite this in function notation, which we're asked to do. And there we have it. We have our linear function in both y equals notation and f of x notation. So already we filled out 2 cells of this table, and I think we're doing a good job. So let's keep going. After I've got the equation, it's not hard to put it in to our calculator, to our y equals 1.25x plus 3, and to look at a picture of it. Well, it's a straight line. So I know if it's a straight line that the parent function is linear. And parent function of linear, it goes through 0, 0, and it has a slope of 1. Which means it rises 1, goes right 1, or it goes down 1 and left 1. So I'm going to do my best to make a straight line. I think that's good enough. And there we have the parent function, and our parent function is y equals x. Well, that's lovely for the parent function, but now we need to sketch our actual graph. And so what I want to do is I just want to get a few points, and I don't want decimals, I want actual points. And so I see -4, 2, and I see, what do I see? 0, 3 is a good one because it's also our y-intercept. So now I have 2 points that I can connect to draw this function. I think I'm just going to quit while I'm ahead, put some arrows on the end. So that is the picture of our function. The next thing we need to do is find the intercepts, and I can tell from the table and also from my equation that my y-intercept is 3. And by looking at it, I don't think that my x-intercept is a whole number. I think my x-intercept is a fraction, or a decimal would be the same thing. And to find my x-intercept, I would look for a 0 in the table, and I'm not finding one. I see a positive 0.5 and a negative 0.75, but I don't see a 0. So I'm going to have to find another way to do this. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways. I'm going to show you how to find it by hand, and I'm also going to show you how to find it using the calculator. So by hand, we are going to write down the equation, and I'm looking for the x-intercept. And I find the x-intercept when my y is 0. So let's come back over here. I'm going to put 0 in for y. And I'm going to solve for this x. The first thing I need to do is to subtract 3 from both sides. And I get -3 equals 1.25x. Well, now I need to divide everything by 1.25. And I like my trusty calculator for this sort of stuff. So let's clear. We're in our home screen, and we have -3 divided by 1.25, and that equals -2.4. So my intercept is 2.4 and 0. Let's go back and put that in. And just to make sure we got a right answer, that looks exactly right because it crosses at between -2 and -3. So that seems to be a very reasonable answer. There's also a fairly easy calculator way to do this. Let's go back to our graph. I want to know the value of x when it intercepts the x-axis. I'm looking for the x-intercept. That's exactly what it says. And it's the x-intercept is also often called a 0. So look at this. We go to second trace, and check that out. There is the word 0. So it asks me for the left bound. All it's asking me is to go to the left of the area I'm trying to find. And then it asks me for a right bound. Well, I click up to the right of that intercept, or 0. And do I want it to guess? I sure do. And check it out. X is -2.4 when y equals 0. So you can do it either way. You can solve by hand, or you can solve with your calculator. We've now found both of our intercepts. It asks for a numerical value and a verbal explanation. You really need the verbal explanation when we have words associated with our values, and you'll see that on a different problem. So for now, I think we're good. The last thing that we want to do is find our slope. And we know that our slope is 1.25 because this is our equation, y equals 1.25x plus 3. This is slope-intercept form. This is the slope. This is the y-intercept. So we're looking at this number right here. You can use your calculator and you can turn that into a fraction. You use your home screen, you type in 1.25 math and you turn it into a fraction, and it is 5/4. Now it asks for a verbal explanation, and even though this doesn't have words associated with the values, I still want to show you what they're talking about. And all you have to do is follow this fraction. If you remember, slope is the change in y over the change in x. So both of this, this is all positive. So what we say is we say the y value increases 5 times per every 4 units, or 4 times the x value increases. Y value increases 5 times per every 4 units of the x value. And that's a verbal explanation of slope. I know this is a long video, thank you guys for hanging in there, but what we're looking for is we are trying to find tools that will help us solve any single STAAR question that comes our way. Start working on 1 through 5, and if you get stuck on them, you can find the explanations in the links. Thanks guys.